In the spring of 1864, as the American Civil War tore the nation apart, a small transaction took place in rural Alabama that seemed too insignificant to matter. No newspaper reported it. No politician spoke of it. No military commander noticed it. On a faded piece of paper, among livestock counts and property records, a young black child was assigned a value of just $3. $3. Less than the price of a pair of boots. Less than the value of a healthy mule. Less than many plantation owners spent on a single dinner. Yet according to a story that would survive long after cannons fell silent and armies disappeared, that child would one day influence events in ways no one could possibly imagine. His name was Thomas Freeman, and what happened to him would become one of the most extraordinary forgotten stories of 19th century America. Before we continue, comment below what the country you're watching from, and if you enjoy forgotten history, subscribe to join our community. The year was 1864. The Confederate States of America were crumbling under pressure. Union forces pushed deeper into the South. Railroads were destroyed. Crops failed. Inflation soared. Families waited anxiously for letters from battlefields hundreds of miles away. In Dallas County, Alabama, life on many plantations had become increasingly desperate. One of those plantations belonged to a struggling landowner named William Carter. Only a decade earlier, Carter had enjoyed considerable wealth. Cotton prices had been strong. Labor had been abundant. His future seemed secure. Now everything was changing. War consumed resources. Young white men left for military service. Markets collapsed. Debt mounted. And Carter faced a problem he could no longer ignore. He was running out of money. Among the enslaved families living on his property was a woman named Sarah. Sarah had spent nearly her entire life in bondage. She knew hardship. She knew fear. She knew the terrible uncertainty that accompanied every sunrise. Most painfully, she knew what it meant to lose family members through sale and separation. Years earlier, her husband had been sold to another plantation. She never saw him again. Now she lived with her young son, Thomas. He was small for his age. Thin, quiet, observant. Many adults barely noticed him. But Sarah noticed everything about him. She noticed how carefully he listened when people spoke. She noticed how he studied tools, animals, and machines. She noticed how he remembered details long after others forgot them. Most importantly, she noticed his questions. Thomas asked questions constantly. Questions about roads. Questions about maps. Questions about the war. Questions about freedom. Questions nobody expected from such a young child. And that was only the beginning. One humid afternoon in May 1864, Carter reviewed plantation accounts with increasing frustration. The numbers were devastating. Debt exceeded income. Supplies dwindled. Creditors demanded payment. Desperate men often make desperate choices. What happened next would alter Thomas's life forever. Carter ordered several assets sold: livestock, equipment, and human beings. Among those listed was Thomas. The child received an estimated value of only $3, not because his life lacked worth, but because war had shattered slave markets across much of the South. Young children could not perform significant labor. Food shortages made dependents seem like liabilities. To men focused solely on economics, Thomas appeared nearly worthless. $3, a number written casually on paper. A number that revealed everything about the cruelty of slavery. Yet, what happened next shocked everyone. A neighboring farmer named Elijah Freeman agreed to take custody of Thomas under circumstances historians would later debate. Some accounts suggested purchase. Others suggested temporary transfer. Still others claimed it was part of a debt arrangement. The records remain unclear. But one fact appears repeatedly. Thomas left the plantation, and Sarah remained behind. The separation devastated both of them. Witnesses later recalled Sarah screaming as wagons departed. Thomas cried until exhaustion overcame him. Neither knew whether they would ever meet again. But that wasn't the whole story. Elijah Freeman proved different from many men Thomas had encountered. Though hardly wealthy, Freeman recognized something unusual in the boy. Intelligence, curiosity, determination. He noticed Thomas examining newspapers. He noticed Thomas memorizing routes and landmarks. He noticed Thomas learning tasks far faster than expected. And slowly, a remarkable relationship developed. Then history intervened. In 1865, the Civil War ended. The Confederacy collapsed. Slavery was abolished. Millions of formerly enslaved people entered an uncertain future. For Thomas, freedom arrived alongside confusion. He was still a child. He possessed no money, no formal education, no clear path forward. Yet he possessed something many others lacked: an extraordinary hunger to learn. What happened next would define the rest of his life. Across the South, schools for freed African Americans began appearing despite fierce resistance. Teachers traveled long distances. Churches opened classrooms. Communities pooled scarce resources. Education became a symbol of hope. Thomas embraced it with relentless energy. He walked miles to attend lessons. He studied by candlelight. He borrowed books whenever possible. Former teachers later described him as nearly impossible to discourage. If he encountered a difficult problem, he simply worked longer. If a door closed, he searched for another. But danger remained everywhere. Many white Southerners opposed black education. Schools were threatened. Buildings were burned. Teachers faced intimidation. Students risked violence. Still, Thomas continued. And soon another twist emerged. One evening, a visiting educator noticed the young man's remarkable memory. After listening to a lengthy lecture, Thomas repeated large portions, almost word for word. The educator was stunned. He began mentoring him personally. That mentorship changed everything. By the early 1870s, Thomas had become known locally for his academic ability. People traveled considerable distances simply to hear him speak. Some predicted he would become a teacher. Others imagined he might enter politics. Few realized how far his journey would eventually take him. Then an unexpected opportunity appeared. A Northern missionary organization offered scholarships to promising African American students. Competition was intense. Resources were limited. Selection seemed unlikely. Yet Thomas submitted an application. Weeks passed, then months. Finally, a letter arrived. He had been accepted. The news transformed his future. For the first time, possibilities expanded beyond county lines, beyond Alabama, and beyond the South itself.